Okay, so this is Bovine Genomics from the USACO 2017 US Open Contest Silver Division. This is also one of the problems from the USACO Guide Bronze Division Complete Search Basic Complete Search module. And this is the second hard problem. It's also a recommended problem. Alright, so Farmer John owns N cows with spots and N cows without spots. Having just completed a course in bovine genomics, he is convinced that the spots on his cows are caused by mutations in the bovine genome. At great expense, Farmer John sequences the genomes of his cows. Each genome is a string of length M, built from 4 characters A, C, G, and T. When he lines up the genomes of his cow, he gets a table like the following, shown here for n equals 3. Looking carefully at this table, he surmises that positions 2 and 4 are sufficient to explain spottiness. That is, by looking at the characters in just these 2 positions, Farmer John can predict which of his cows are spotty and which are not. For example, if he sees G and C, the cow must be spotty. Farmer John is convinced that spottiness can be explained not by just 1 or 2 positions in the genome, but by looking at a set of 3 distinct positions. Please help him count the number of sets of 3 distinct positions that can be explained by spottiness. The first line of input contains n, where 1 is less than or equal to n is less than or equal to 500, and m, where 3 is less than m is less than 500. The next n lines each contain a string of m characters. These describe the genomes of the spotty cows. The final n lines describe the genomes of the plain cows. Okay, so for this problem, we're given some cows, some sequence of 2 cows, or 2 sets of cows, each of size n. So we have this set right here, and for the time being, I'm just going to take the first and second one. So we have A, T, C, C, A, T. And another one we have is ACT, CCC, AG. And so this one right here is not spotty, I believe, although it doesn't actually matter. And this one right here is spotty. So actually, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be calling these having spotty versus not spotty as 2 different classes. You have cow of class 1, or type 1, rather. And you have cows of type 2. So what this problem is asking is how many triplets of indexes exist, such that if we were to look just at those indexes, no type 1 and type 2 cow would have the same sequence. So what does that mean? That means if I were to take a look at, for instance, indexes 1, 2, and 4, then no cow in type 1 should have the same values for 1, 2, and 4 as another cow in type 2. So what that means is you should not be able to find AAC in both type 1 and type 2, where A is in the first position, A is in the second position, and C is in the fourth position. And now, obviously, this is not necessarily true for all triplets. For instance, if you took a look at 4, 5, and 6, you'd notice that in type 1, and specifically the first cow, we have CCC. But in the second, in the first cow of the second type, we have, again, CCC. So this triplet of 4, 5, 6 would not work. So how exactly can we go about solving this? Well, one of the strategies that we can employ is being smart about our brute force. We can go through every pair or every triplet of indexes and keep track of these values of this A, and this C in a set. So what we would do is we would say we have, and this is, since it's triplets, it's a little bit easy. We have a set of strings, and this string, this is C++ notation, but we essentially have a set of strings, and this set of strings is going to give us I'm doing. This set of strings is going to keep track of, for instance, AAC. It's going to keep track of AAC, GAT, GGC, because those are the type 1 cows at indexes 1, 2, and 4. So suppose we are at index I, J, and K. And in this situation, I is equal to 1, J is equal to 2, K is equal to 3. So in this situation, our set would contain AAC, or actually, not K is equal to 3, K is equal to 4, not 3. So our set would contain AAC, GAT, and GGC. And now what we could do is we could go through and take a look for each of the spotty, or each of the type 2 cows. You have ACC, well, that's not in the set. You have ACC again, that's not in the set. And you have ACT, that's not in the set. So this triplet works. So essentially what I've done here is I've gone through and checked every single possible triplet. And that's all we need to do to pass this problem. Now, why does that work? That works because there are only 50 choose 3 triplets. There are only 50 choose 3, which is, you could approximate that to be 1, 2, 5, 0, 0, 0 triplets. And since there are 500 cows, and obviously please do this using a calculator, you would get 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros, and then 6, 2, 5. So this is somewhere around what the order or magnitude of the your algorithm would be. And if you take a look, that's well within 10 to the power of 8, which is about the time limit you want to set for yourself in bronze. And actually this is 6 times 10 to the power of 7. So this algorithm works. So how exactly are we going to go about implementing it? Well, here's the solution that the USACO guide provides. This is essentially just including all of the things that they will be needing. What they've done is slightly different than what the algorithm that I said is, but it still works nonetheless. So what they've done is they've kept track of, instead of taking a look at, well, what's the string, right, that set of strings, what they've done is they've converted that into a number. And then they're saying that that ID has been spotted. So let's take a look at this algorithm. So first, you're going to keep track of your number of cows and your genome length. In this read cow num genome length, you're going to keep track of first your vector of int spotted. What is this? Well, why is it vector int? Why is it not vector of string? That's because, remember, in this algorithm, they're converting every character to a number from 1 or 0 to 3, actually. So they're reading in the genome, and then they are going through every character in that genome and seeing if it's an A, make it 0. If it's a T, make it 1. If it's a C, make it 2. And if it's a G, make it 3. And they're doing the same thing for the plain cows. And now what you have is you have a vector of ints. And what this is, essentially, this is just our string, but compressed into 0, 1, 2, and 3. Now what they're doing is they're keeping track of their answer in a valid set and going through every possible group of 3. So that's for in A is less than genome length, and then B is equal to A plus 1, B is less than genome length, and C is equal to B plus 1, C is less than genome length. So just a quick note here, this iteration style is going to ensure that we don't do any repeated triplets. Because since B is always less than, or B is always greater than A and C is always greater than B, we can never have any 6 permutations. So that's essentially what this is doing. And also this ensures that A is never equal to B, B is never equal to C. So since vector of bool, which is, oh, and actually the next thing I should probably explain what they're doing here. This vector of bool spotted IDs of length 64 is essentially the IDs that have been the IDs that correspond with a spotted cow. So essentially what that is that's this AAC, GAT, and GGC. So remember how they gave A having a value of 0, T having a value of 1, and C having a value of 2, and G having a value of 3. Well, all they're doing is they're keeping track of what has been seen in the spotted IDs size 64. So how exactly are they compressing this length 3 string into 64 different numbers? Well, since we've converted every character to either 0, 1, 2, or 3, we can use base 4 compression, which is exactly what they do here. They multiply the first character by 16. So that's essentially 4 squared times A. Then they multiply the second character by 4, so that's plus 4b. And they multiply the final character by 1, so that's plus c. Now, for those of you who are who understand bases, you might recognize this as a base expansion of ABC. Essentially, what this is doing is this is converting ABC base 4 into a base 10 number, so something n base 10, for instance. And so that's what they're saying here. This is total. And so this comment actually succinctly explains it. By multiplying the first, second, and third digits by 16, 4, and 1, respectively, we can get a number unique to that combination. And so once you have that unique number, you can say spotted IDs of total is equal to true. And this is essentially saying spotted IDs of the string is equal to true, which essentially means we've seen this string. And now what they're doing is they're keeping track of whether or not any of the values in the non-spotted, which is type 2, have already been seen in the spotted. So that's this boolean right here. And so they're saying for each non-spotted cow, which is plain cow, they're getting the ID again. So this is the same thing that's going on up here. They're getting this ID, and then they're saying if spotted IDs of total, and what this is doing is this is checking is this string already existing in the spotted IDs, then we are going to set valid to false and break. And finally, they say valid sets plus equals valid. And this might be a bit confusing, but essentially in C++, a boolean is 1 if it's true and 0 if it's false. So what you could replace this, if you wanted to be clear, with if valid sets plus plus. That's essentially what it's doing. So since valid is false here, if we've already seen it and then we broke out, this is not going to run. And after that, all we do is we output valid sets. And what that does is that keeps track in this valid sets for every triplet such that this condition is true. We output that number of triplets, which is essentially what the algorithm here is, or the algorithm that I described was doing. And if you were to run this, you'd notice that it does really well. It goes under 2 seconds. Actually, I think this one has a very high constant time, so let me just upload the right folder. This is in Bovine Genomics. And submit. Yeah, this solution does much better. Actually, I think the solution earlier that I used to show used strings. And so, the solution I used earlier used strings. Now this solution uses integers, so it's much faster. Okay, so that was Bovine Genomics from the USACO 2017 Open Contest Silver Division, and also the Bovine Genomics problem from the USACO Guide Bronze Complete Search Basic Complete Search module. If you guys did enjoy, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all in another video.